Hi everyone. In this video we'll go over an overview or a review for exam 3. So we'll start with flowcharting and then we will go with VBA. So as I said, the exam is gonna have 3 questions. So let's move. So the exam will consist of 3 questions. 2 will be flowcharts questions. So you will be given a scenario like this one, for example, and then you will be asked to draw a flowchart for it. And then the second one, the same thing. It's going to be giving you a scenario like this, and it will ask you to draw a flowchart, and it's going to be using a paper and a pencil. So I recommend that you bring with you a pencil, that way you can draw it on the paper. And then the third question will be, I will give you a scenario, and then I will give you what I would call it, a shot or a snip of the program, how it should look like in Excel. That way you will be able to see which variables there are, and then you will be asked to code it in Excel and submit the Excel file. So for now, let's start with the flowcharts first, and then we will go with the second and then the third examples. So in this scenario, it was given you actually in the exam, in the homework. So let's look at this scenario and try to understand it. So the first thing that I would recommend is, when you are in the exam, read those questions very carefully, and then try to identify which ones are the inputs, which ones are the output, and try to understand what is really required to be done. So in this case here, when I read this scenario, it is basically telling me they want me to show how much in terms of pixar. So my input is basically the number of pixars. So the number of pixars, basically that will be my input. And then they want me they want me to show, for example, for every ingredient, let's say that the Brennan, how much of pixar the Brennan will be. So in this case, it is 400 grams of Brennan. So 1 pixar is 400 grams of Brennan. That means 1 pixar equals 0.4 times pixar. So basically I solved that one. The second one, which is collidin, is, so the collidin will equal 0.8 times pixar, and so on. So you get the idea now. So this is basically, that will be my output. So now let's convert this one into a flowchart. So the first thing when I am drawing a flowchart, the first thing is to create abbreviations for those terms. So to create a legend, which will be basically abbreviations and then the full name for each of those variables that, or fields that I'm going to include, the variables. So let's put this one. So the first step is to look and put my variable list. So now B is pixar desired, BR Brennan, and so on. So you got the idea. This is the first step I need to do when I'm drawing a flowchart, and you will get points for those. So don't miss those little ones because they might affect your grade. So make sure that you get every single point. So the second step is to follow the flowchart's shapes that we talked about in class. So we say the shapes start with the terminator. So we will start with the terminator shape for start, and then the second shape should be the input shape, which is basically what is my input. So the input shape, it is the parallelogram. So my input in this case is the pixar desired, the number of pixars. So remember, number of pixars is my input, and then the second step should be my process. So my process here for Brennan, it equals, for example, let's say half of pixar, or in this case it is 0.4 of pixar. So you got the idea here. And then after you do this is the process. Now we need to show the output. So the output basically will be displaying my output, which are everything. So the input, which is the number of pixars, and then the Brennan, and then the Collidine and Zmax. So you get that, and then I will end with an end. So this is very simple, straightforward. So make sure that you practice a lot, that when you're in the exam you don't get surprised. So then the second example, I will give you a scenario like this, for example, and then I will ask you, so in this case we have a hotel that provides discounts based on the membership levels. So there are conditions based on the membership levels. I will be able to decide the amount of discount. So there are 4 or 3, in this case 4 scenarios or 4 conditions. So if the resident or if the guest of that hotel is not a member, the discount will be 0. So now this is kind of, it shows me if I have conditions, that means it is a decision or the diamond shape I will use for those. And also when it comes to code, I will think about it about if, then, else if. So that's kind of another way to remember what I should do. So now I have 4 conditions. For every condition there are 2 outcomes. If, so the first condition or the first diamond will tell me, is the guest a non-member? If it is yes, then the discount will equal 0. If not, then I will go to the next one. So is the guest a dung beetle? Then if it is yes, then I will say discount equals 5%. If it is not, if this guest is not dung beetle member, then I will go to the next one. So using the diamond, is the guest a silver beetle? Then if it is yes, the discount will equal 15%. Otherwise I will go to the next one or the last one. Is the member golden beetle? Then if it is yes, 25%, otherwise it is 0. All right, so now I got the idea. So I have those conditions. I can translate them into flowchart. So I'm gonna draw it. Now I know what my input will be, basically the membership. So my input will be the membership and so on. But let's look at the, now actually I even gave you some hints as well here, the check-in. So what information should we know when the member or the guest comes in or checks in? Basically, what is the input that I need? So it is the membership level, number of nights stay, and room rate. This is kind of straightforward, very easy for me to tell. If there's only one thing, then it's kind of gonna be given to you as an indication or a hint in the questions. So that now it is telling me that this is my input. I need to know those 3 things. So now this is kind of tells me in my flowchart, my input is going to be those 3 things. Now it's asking me to develop a flowchart that calculates the charge. So also I am given also a scenario, the calculation or the formula here. So I can use this also as my process, the formula. If it is given to me, that's great. So perfect. So now I will go ahead and create my flowchart again. I will start by creating a legend, kind of abbreviations for each of those variables. And then I will draw my flowchart by starting with the start terminator. So start and then the input. So my input in this case are going to be those 3. And then the process will be the diamonds that I just went through, the diamond shapes for each of those conditions. Then when I am done, and then I can be able to calculate the total charge. In this case, the charge will be the number of nights of stay, and then the room rate times 1 minus the discount. And the discount will be one of those outcomes here. So then I will be able to, my output will be to display the charge. And then I can end. So now let's look at the solution. Very straightforward, easy. So this is exactly what I did. I started with first put in my legends. That way it makes it easy for me to create the flowchart with the abbreviation. So now, as you can see, it is straightforward. Is the membership gold? Then if it is true, then the discount equals 25%. And if it is not gold, then go next person, and so on. And then I can use my formula or the process to calculate the total charge. Then I can print the charge or display it as an output and end. Very simple, straightforward. So now let's say that I told you also, add a loop to this flowchart that you just created. So in this case, we will add the loop like what we showed in class. You will start from here, and this is kind of an example of the loop. So we displayed, so now in this case we ended here when we printed C. So now you start from here before the end, but after the print display. So then you will say prompt repeat yes or no. Then you will, so basically you will start from here right after. So let's see, so right after the print screen you will include this one, prompt repeat yes or no, and then input, and then you will go and then repeat is yes. If it is yes, then go back to the beginning and create a kind of a connector and so on. If it is not, then end. So basically now it should be very straightforward here. All right, this is another example, by the way. It's not the previous one we just did. So now let's go on to the third example. So this is the third example, and this is kind of a similar example to the one that I'm gonna give you in the exam, because I'm going to give you the scenario for the problem that you will need to create a code for. So in this case we have different conditions, and I already kind of give you a hint about what is the input that you will need, and then I gave you also a formula to calculate the output, and also I provided you with the interface. So basically this is how the interface should look like. And as you notice here, this kind of arrow here, or drop down arrow, basically indicates that there are more options here. So those options here, basically the dung, the silver, the gold, and the none. So basically that's kind of an indication. So now I should be able to enter or code this application, this VBA code. So to do the VBA code, we'll just look at the flowchart will help, as well as looking at this screen here will give me some indication or insights what I need to do. So as we said, when we start coding using VBA, the first step is to start with option explicit. Then I will go next to create a sub. So in this case, let's say this is the hotel, so sub hotel, and then open parentheses and close it, for example. Then the second step, after you create the sub, then you will need to define your variables. So in my case, the variables are already here. So I need basically the number or the type of membership as m. I can dim or declare in memory. So I can dim m as string, for example, because it's membership. And then I can declare number of nights as integer, because I need whole numbers. And then I can dim, or you can do it doubles as well, that would be fine. But make sure that if it has to have decimals, don't put it as integer. But if you use double, that should not be a problem. So, and then r, or number of rooms, as integer or double will be fine. And then the discount, so the discount here must be double. So dim d as double, so the discount has to be double. And then charge as currency will be fine since it's an output. All right, so now I declared all my variables. Now I need to assign those into the exact cells in Excel. So as we learned in Excel, so you will practice more, and then you will say worksheets, and then open parentheses and quotation mark. You put the name of the sheet, the Excel sheet that we are working on, and then dot, and then you will put the range, and the range basically will be, and then open parentheses and quotation mark, and then it's gonna be for membership, for example, it's gonna be B2 in this case, and then close the quotation mark, parentheses, dot value, and then basically in this case your m will equal this value. All right, so now, and then you will define the rest of the variables here based on Excel. and then your output will be also the total bill. So basically B, so you will say worksheets, and then the name of the sheet, the range, which is in this case will be B5 dot value will equal, in this case, the total bill or the charge. So basically that. So now let's look at the code, how I coded it. So I just added some comments and I created a sub here. Let's say I called it BJ1 sub, and then I declared my variables. So I declared membership as string because it is text, and then declared number of nights as integer, and then room rate as double, and then discount rate as double, and currency. So you got the idea here. I assigned membership to B2 and assigned number of nights to B3 and so on. You got the idea. Now the process is to do an if then else if. So remember, practice as much as possible to do this. So if M equals gold, then D or the discount equals 0.25. Else if the membership equals silver, then the discount is 15 or 0.15. Else if membership equals done, then discount equals 0.05. Else, remember the else is very important to end with an else. So else D equals 0 and if. So this should work, and then your final calculation will be the total charge will equal number of nights times the rates times 1 minus discount should give us the output. So now our output is C, so we need to assign this cell to C. So you got the idea. That's kind of in a nutshell how your exam should look like. And so I wish you all the best and good luck to you, and have a great time and work hard in order to do very well in the exam. So good luck to you. Bye.